Hello and welcome to the first webinar in our Learn 2 series. I'm Lauren and I'm part of the Sport and Active Communities Department at Roehampton. Today we're going to be discussing all things esports with the University Esports Coordinator, Jonas. We're just going to have a chat and then answer some questions that have come in from social media. So Jonas, thank you so much for joining me today. Roehampton is renowned for its involvement in esports. We have this amazing arena. We're the first university in the UK to have a Women in Esports scholarship. But for people like me who have never participated in esports, don't know much about the industry, what is esports and what does esports actually mean?
So, hi, Lauren. First of all, thanks so much for having me here. I always love talking about esports and especially all the work that we do here at Roehampton. And I'll try to answer any and all of the questions as deeply as possible and with as much information as possible. So to answer your question, what is esports? There's a few different approaches, but I guess the closest definition to correct approach is organized competitive gaming. So it definitely has to be organized in a sense that it's, you're playing against other players and you're doing it live. So obviously with video games, you have a lot of sort of single player games with amazing stories. But these don't count as esports because you're not directly competing against another person. Hence the organized. And then competitive gaming, you have either 1 versus 1 player or a team versus team and a variety of other options. But you're always competing against other players and, with a variety of different goals, depending on different games. If it's, FIFA, you just have to score more goals. If it's a first-person shooter game, you just have to make sure to eliminate all the enemies. And there's a variety of different games and different goals. Another way that a lot of industry professionals, I guess, decide on what is esports and what isn't esports is it depends on whether or not it's live streamed and if it has a live audience. So for a lot of the events, a lot of esports events are live streamed. Now that the COVID is happening, obviously everything is online, but when majority of people think about esports events, so a lot of them think about, watching it on YouTube or Twitch, any other live streaming platform and just watching it online. But not all of the people, at least the people who aren't really interested in esports, they don't really know that esports actually fills up massive arenas all around the world. So in London, when I went to a couple of esports events, it was the SSE Arena was pretty much packed full. In Beijing, they had the Olympic Stadium used as the esports venue for the League of Legends finals. Staples Center in America is usually full whenever there's a big and massive esports tournament happening. So a lot of esports events happen online and offline, and sort of, to sum up, I guess the question, and I know I'm on a little bit of a tangent, but it's organized competitive gaming, preferably, with some sort of live broadcast aspect to it.
Yeah, and the events that you're talking about, SSE Arena, that's where you'd see like concerts and famous artists fill out those kind of stadiums. But the esports industry is so big right now. I think I read that in 2020, like the total revenue was like $1.5 billion or something like that. That's crazy. What is it about esports that you think is so popular? Like, how did we go from, having these games consoles to having people playing in front of millions of people around the world? Like, how do you think it got so popular?
Yeah, I think in regards to how big the esports industry, I think a couple of weeks ago there was a really interesting discussion online on one of the webinars about the real evaluation. So the 1.5 billion evaluation comes from an organization called Newzoo. They do a lot of sort of analytics and stats for the esports industry, but there were a group of academics who evaluated the esports industry at, I think, instead of like 1 to 1.5 billion, at around like 18 or 20 billion US dollars or something like that, because it all depends on really how you define esports. Like, is esports everyone playing games? Well, no, it's gaming industry, but esports is like if you're playing against another person in some sort of a organized way, does that count as esports? So like the number is, I guess, somewhere in between those two numbers, but the fact is that the industry is growing year on year. I guess from my point of view, the reason why it's so popular and why is it growing so quickly is just the change of times, really. So like I don't have a TV in my house, and I don't think I really need a TV in my house. I don't
Mm,
have a cable or anything like that, and I don't ever imagine, getting a cable and paying for a monthly subscription for cable. It's just
mm,
the viewing habits of a lot of people constantly change. Another good
yeah.
thing about esports is that when you're spectating someone, it sort of both applies to esports and just watching esports games casually on Twitch, is whenever you're spectating another person playing the same game as you are playing, and if the person is professional and very good at the game, you
Hmm.
see the amazing plays they do, amazing things you do, and you can actually go and do exactly the same things that they did like 5 minutes later on your own PC. Another good thing with esports is that with a lot of live streams, not talking about like the big tournaments, but just the casual live streams on Twitch, is you can go and speak directly to you can chat directly to the person you admire, the professional player or
Oh,
professional gamer or
okay.
something like that. You
Yeah.
don't really get that in football. Like in the good old days, if you really love football and you David Beckham is your favorite player, you can't really, like, you're not really gonna get a chance to speak to him, are you?
Yeah.
But in esports, you always have, like, if the player chooses to live stream, you can always go and try and have a chat with them or just feel part of the community. So I guess that's one of the reasons why it's so interesting. And it's once again, it's very accessible, because
Hmm.
it's easy to watch. It's fairly easy to understand. Like, some of the games are easier to understand than others. For example, Counter-Strike, which recently celebrated its 20-year anniversary, and it's still one of the biggest esports games. It's very
Hmm.
simple to watch. There's some other games like League of Legends or some battle royale games, which are a bit trickier to understand if you just, as a brand new player. Like, the easiest game to understand is Rocket League, which is essentially a three players versus three players. You have a ball in the middle, and essentially you're playing football with radio controlled cars. So it's a very simple premise, but the games are really
Hmm.
exciting. And what makes the games really exciting is the shoutcasters, which essentially are the commentators of the games.
Yeah.
And whenever they hype up, you get hyped up as well. And the spectation, people spectating all of the esports tournaments, everything started on Twitch and then YouTube, Facebook gaming, and things like that. But now a lot of those esports titles are moving more towards the mainstream media. For example, BBC is showing I think 4 or 6 part mini documentary series on Excel, which is one of the biggest esports teams
Yes.
in UK, London based. They're actually in Twickenham, very close to us. And they're actually showing the UKLC games on the iPlayer. So UKLC is the League of Legends, pretty much one of the top leagues in the UK. So it's really nice to see how the esports is sort of has grown from being just a small thing expected by a few people, and then it's growing to massive audiences, and now going slowly, towards the mainstream TV, like
Mainstream.
BBC iPlayer.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually, I mean, you've covered quite a lot of it, but my next question was about traditional sports and esports. I think there's a lot of
Mm.
questioning about whether sports can actually be classed as sport. Like, is it a sport? What are the similarities? And yeah, you've covered some of it, but I was going to ask you, what are some, and of course you sit in as part of our department, like some stuff is student union, but some stuff is us. How does esports and traditional sports, how do they relate? How do they have anything in common?
Yeah, I guess it's a discussion that's been going on for a long time, and I'm sure some people will have very strict opinions on one end, and then some people will never accept esports as a sport. But I guess the reason why the term initially stuck as esports was simply there wasn't really a better term to define competitive gaming that would
Hmm.
a word that simple a word that would
Yeah.
allow people to understand what they're looking at.
Hmm.
But there's so many similarities to esports when compared to traditional sports. For example, the professional teams, all of the professional teams will have full-time coaches. All of the players will be full-time players.
Hmm.
And it's not just a coach. So a lot of them will have professional nutritionist on board, like
Yeah.
chef in a team, who will be making them food all the time to make sure they're
Hmm.
healthy. A lot of the professional teams, for example, Excel today announced a new partnership with I can't remember the brand, but they announced a new partnership with a gym kit supplier to set up their own gym to allow all of the players, compulsory training sessions each day with the team to make sure that their mind and body is on track as well. And when you compare to traditional sports, you do exactly all of the same things. You're competing against other teams. You do the same thing as research. So if you're playing, if you're a football player or a football manager and you're about to play another football team, you'll watch their previous games and you'll try to analyze all the players. You do exactly the same in esports. And if you if you're a player, you'll do the exactly same thing. You'll look up at whatever player you're going to be playing against and similar things.
Yeah, I mean, I think, because I think about parents and, their children playing on their Xbox and saying, I want to be a professional gamer. I think parents will have a lot of skepticism about letting their child play on their console constantly to get better. But I completely understand that there's so much training that's involved. And I think the same with, physical traditional sport, there's so much more than just what you're actually doing in front of you. It's about your mindset. It's about your diet, what you're eating, and, how good you are, I guess. So yeah, it's really interesting. I saw that a lot of professional sports teams actually have esports players. So I know like PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, I know they have some, Ajax, like some baseball teams in America. They all physical teams that also have esports teams. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, a lot of football teams are sort of slowly going into esports, and they're not just going into esports in a sense that they have a FIFA team, because most of these sort of football clubs will have a competitive FIFA team or a few players who represent them, but they're going into actual original esports titles. For example, Schalke 04, which is I believe a football team. They have a high level League of Legends team, like one of the best in Europe, So they understand that a lot of the competitive sports side of it is going to be digital in the future. It might not, and it most likely will never replace football or anything like that. But it's not like it's not like it's directly competing with football. It's not something that is looking to replace football. It's something that's complementary, So if you're not a big fan of football, or you have any other reason why you can't follow football, you can't play football, maybe esports can scratch that competitive itch that you have and that you want to do. So
yeah, and I think football is a huge industry, like esports, and like with football, you don't have to be a player to be involved in it. There's so much that goes on, whether it's media or marketing, whatever. You obviously work, obviously part of the university, but it's an esports role. It's an unusual job to acquire, I think. How did you get, so I mean, I don't think you've ever been a professional player, right? Like, how did you get here? Because I'm sure there's lots of people who are interested in gaming, or like, I mean, I love football, but I'm never good enough to be a professional. So I'm sure there's a lot of gamers who maybe don't want to play professionally, but love the industry so much that they want to work in it. Like, how did you get to your job?
So I'll tell you sort of how I got to my job, and then sort of the two possible essentially career paths for any esports enthusiasts after I do the initial talking. Just remind me to cover that as well, just in case I forget. So the way I got into this role was pretty much just completely by accident. I was still working at the student union when university announced the esports scholarships, and I thought like, oh my God, it's amazing. It's so unfortunate when I'm about to leave the role at student union and I'm about to go somewhere else. Didn't have a job lined up or anything like that. And then James, who's head of sport and active communities at Roehampton, he came to Corella, who's in charge of our societies, to have a chat about esports. Corella didn't really know anything about esports, and I was still there, and she knew I love gaming. So I joined them in that meeting, and then I joined a few other meetings, and it sort of got to the point where I was asked to run the esports program for a month, and then I was asked to stay another 2 months, and like that. And then I realized, the esports program is growing so quickly with the arena of the scholarships and everything like that there has to be a full-time member of staff in there. And then sort of we managed to establish that role. But I was never a professional esports gamer or anything like that, nowhere near. So I would categorically mark myself as sort of 1% above average or something like that. So I love esports, I love watching esports, I love learning about the industry, but I was never a top end player or anything like that. I It's as simple as that. I just don't have the skill. I'm just not good enough, and I'm absolutely happy with that. But what I did have was experience in marketing, photography, how to run societies, how to set up things. And that's where I sort of wanted to talk about possible different career paths for esports players. Because
Mhm.
what a lot of people think about esports industries, and that's the same thing with, as you briefly mentioned, when parents see their kids playing, in front of PlayStation or Xbox or PC for God knows how many hours a day, and then think like the kid is just wasting time. Not necessarily if they're being directed, in the right place. Because there's a lot of careers in esports. So when people think about possible careers in esports, most of them think about two things: either a professional player, a player who's going to be playing the games on big stages and winning, 28 a part of the $28 million prize pool for Dota tournaments,
Mhm.
or you can become a live streamer, so someone who plays games on Twitch and just streams and rakes in millions of dollars a year. So most of people really think of just those two career paths, but there's so many other career options in the esports industry. So you need the marketers, you need the business people, you need the analysts, you need the lawyers, you need the graphic designers, videographers, and everything like that. So essentially, whatever any other competitive traditional sport industry has, esports has the same thing. And if you want to, and it's the same thing sort of within, let's say, football. If you want to become a professional football player, if you make it, it's amazing. You're going to have amazing
Mhm.
salary. You're going to be a star. Everyone will know your name. It's going to be great. But,
Mhm.
only a teeny tiny portion actually make it to that level. And the careers of some of the players really aren't that long. In esports, it's actually
Yeah.
even shorter. So in esports, a lot of the players, retire by the time we're 25 or something like that, due to maybe burnout, maybe physical hand injuries, or a variety of other reasons. But what I tell to a lot of new students, especially Roehampton students, is if you want to go into esports, don't just limit yourself to a live streamer or a professional player. Think about going into other industries. Because if you really love esports the same way I love esports, and like I really want to be in the industry for a long, long time, but I know that I'm not good enough to be a player. And if you're going as a player, your career might be short. But if you go as a marketer, as a business person, as an analyst, or anything like that, you can have, a 20, 30, 40-year career in esports,
Yeah.
and enjoy, that side of esports with, a lot less stress, a lot less headaches, and things like that. Because I've been volunteering and working with London Esports for a year now, sort of London-based esports organization competing in UK tournaments. It's stressful. It's so stressful to be in an esports team, and like I'm not actually playing. I'm not actually involved with any part. Like I'm their content creator for them.
Yeah.
I do their videos, but it's so stressful to watch their games and just thinking about how like you put in so much effort as a, let's say, a manager or a coach or anything like that, and then it's all up to the players to get the results, and everything can change instantly.
Hmm.
It's such a
Exactly
stressful
like traditional
role.
sports.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, imagine like
Yeah.
how much investment there is in sports. And it's really interesting, like with all the marketing roles and sort of business roles. It's really interesting to see how esports has been growing in the last couple of years. Because before that, so in League of Legends right now, we have we're in season 11. So essentially, the competitive side of the gaming has been going for 11 years. 10 years ago, most of the tournaments had very small prize pools, and still a lot of sort of small professional tournaments or semi-pro tournaments. The prize pool for a lot of them was, you get a headset or you get a keyboard or something like that. Now, most of the tournaments, have at least $1 million prize pools. Some of the teams have signed up big partnerships. So, for example, Excel, which is the London brand, they signed a partnership with, what's it called? The Chupa Chups, the candy makers, which I love the
Oh yeah,
partnership,
Chop
by the
Chops.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Then G2, which is probably the biggest esports organization in the world right now, they have recently signed a partnership with Adidas to create, custom merchandise for their players. So it's the esports is being integrated into the rest of the traditional industries, and becoming a massive part um, of the wider industry, let's put it that way. And there's a lot of esports brands that you shouldn't really even classify them as esports brands. For example, two teams that come to mind is FaZe Clan and 100 Thieves. So 100 Thieves, for example, is a US based company, and they're mainly known as esports team because they have esports teams competing in top end tournaments. For example, they compete in League of Legends tournaments in US. Very massive. They're not the best team, but they are, they're still there, and they still get the coverage and everything like that. So they have a professional team for sure. But their revenue and income from esports only, comes up to, I think, like 20 or 30% at best of their total income from the company. The rest of it is from merchandise, from media rights, from partnerships, from live streaming and things like that. So, esports is growing a lot around content creation, becoming a personality, and then working, building the rest of the industry around those people, which is really fascinating. So yeah, to sum up, essentially what I was trying to say is esports isn't just about being a professional player and being a live streamer or anything like that. There are so many other career paths and opportunities to go into, and it's I guess it's both a blessing and a curse that it's such a new industry. It's growing incredibly fast. It's still, developing. There's a lot of quirkiness in it. Then not all of the sports organizations that we can go to work to are great. Some of them aren't great. Some of them are absolutely amazing. It's still tricky, but if you want to get into esports, I feel like now is a very good time, especially hopefully as soon as the COVID is over, and when we can go back to all of those, offline tournaments or tournaments in actual arenas and things like that. That's where esports really shines.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you next what, in your opinion, are the benefits of esports, but I think you've literally just completely covered that. So thank you.
Yeah, there's sorry, I'll just quickly mention, like the benefits that I enjoy most about esports is so the cognitive benefits of hand-eye coordination and similar things, and strategic thinking and constantly thinking, because when you're playing esports games, and so when you're playing not traditional games, when you're playing single story games, a lot of it is story driven, so you have time to relax, to get into the story and enjoy the gaming. A lot of esports titles are fairly stressful to play, especially if you play at a higher level. A split-second decision can decide on the outcome of your match, and it's really exciting. It's really interesting. And my favorite part about esports is just the ability to stay connected to other people, other friends. So majority of my friends, so I've been living in UK for over 10 years now. A majority of the people that I play online with are from back home, from Lithuania. And interesting part is that now that I haven't lived in Lithuania for 10 years, and I have more Lithuanian friends than I ever had when I was still living back home, just through, online gaming. And especially now during COVID, it's such a good tool to, to connect to people, to play with other friends, and to just to have great time with even with people that you don't know. The recent phenomenon of Among Us, which was the really, really popular game a couple of months ago, it made, like, a lot of people made a lot of great friends, a lot of great connections. I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of not so great things about esports, when there's a lot of toxicity and a lot of angry players and things like that. But if you play with your friends, and if you know how to have fun, then you could go around that. And there's in my opinion, there's a lot of benefits to esports if done correctly. When it comes to when we spoke about the Excel and them having a gym in their sort of esports arenas where players train and compete and actually exercise, the same applies to you, to me, to anyone who wants to get into esports. If you are going to be training to become a better esports player, or just as a casual player, you still want to improve on a regular basis. You don't want to keep playing the game and just get worse at the game. You want to improve. if you're going to be playing for 10 hours, that's not really going to be beneficial. You're just going to get tired, you're going to get tilted, you're going to not perform as well. But if you go for a run and you eat healthy, and you stop eating Doritos the whole time and drinking 5 cans of Red Bull, and you actually drink water, tea, coffee instead of Red Bull and things like that, it is going to help you to perform better and actually become a better player. So there's lots of benefits to esports, in my opinion, if you do it in moderation, if you don't abuse it. And the same thing with traditional sports. Like, you can easily injure yourself or exert yourself, and esports can become strained. Like, sort of traditional sports can also become strained to your life instead of actually doing good for you. But all things in moderation, I guess.
So the message, I guess, is to look after yourself as well as focusing on this thing that you really, really want. You also need to remember to do the things around it, like looking after your body, etc., to actually help you become the best person, the best player. Final question from me: how do people get involved at Roehampton, whether they want to just do a taster session or maybe try out for a team? From here right now, what do they do?
So there's a few options. One of the easiest options is to just email me at esports@roehampton.ac.uk. I'll obviously check the emails every single day, and I'll be able to answer any of your questions. We can always hop on a call, Discord or Zoom call, and I'll go through all of the information with you. Alternatively, another option is to go to our website, which is roehampton.gg. Which will give you most of the information that you need to know about the teams and how to get in touch with us and how to join our Discord channel. So what I remember what I'm going to do next is I'll quickly, now that you mentioned about the space, and I know that a lot of students really enjoy our esports space, but obviously now they're unable to actually attend it and see how it is and things like that. So I feel like it might be really interesting for a lot of people to see how the space looks.
Definitely.
And
it's very cool.
Some more feedback out of it. So are you able to see the screen now with the photos?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. So I'll just quickly run through. So this is I can't remember. I think it's now a third iteration of Roehampton Esports Arena. Initially, we had just one room, the first room, then we expanded to the second room. So the red side, the red LEDs, was considered the social room, and the blue side was the competitive room. And, the space looks amazing. It feels very gamery. It feels awesome. It's very really nice to be there. It does look like very professional. It also has AC, and it's a blessing during the summer months.
Yes, I was going to mention that. That's my favorite part. When it's really hot outside, the AC in there is so good.
Yeah, and it's AC in there is not a sort of it's not a luxury. It's a must, because the rooms don't have any windows because they were old music rooms. They have great sound isolation, but they don't really have any windows. So if because we have 20 PCs in there, if you have 20 people playing with 20 high-end PCs, running at full power, it gets very hot very quickly. So AC is kind of a requirement, let's put it that way. So there's more pictures of the Esports Arena, the layouts, all of the equipment is top notch. It's very professional. If any of the professional teams came in to do a boot camp at Roehampton, they would feel at home. They wouldn't feel like the equipment or the internet is lacking or anything like that. So, awesome looking gamery chairs as well, which is usually the wowing factor for a lot of people. And then, these are our players with our esports jerseys. Like, these jerseys are from last year. So now we have a few more jerseys with more partners and things like that. So NSC and NUL are the tournaments that we compete in. Special Effects is our charity of choice for gaming related things. This is our Rainbow Six team, so they're called Roehampton Badgers. We had them last year, and they were an amazing team. This is from one of our events. This was specifically a Christmas event, not this Christmas, but a Christmas before. Actually, I think it might have been even Christmas before. I can't remember. It was a few Christmases ago, let's put it that way. But it was a great social event where we did, I think it was a League of Legends 1v1 tournament. And it was so much fun. And, having a dedicated space like that for esports on campus is something that not a lot of other universities can offer. And it's such a great place for students to socialize and meet other people. We also did a few FIFA tournaments, which were great. And, FIFA tournaments was hands down the loudest event we ever did. We only got one sound complaint. Exactly. We only got one sound complaint, and that was from this FIFA tournament. It's yeah, FIFA players are the good thing about FIFA is that it's very social thing. Like you
Yeah.
a lot of like in esports, if you are playing a competitive game, you don't really have two or three people sitting next to you and commenting on your game or anything like that. And in FIFA, it's absolutely normal thing to do and slightly encouraged. Just
Yeah.
have a bit of banter with your friends and enjoy the gameplay. Yeah, so these are the FIFA tournaments. We also did a few stretch sessions for players to make sure that they know how to stretch, and they keep their bodies healthy and up to speed to make sure that they can perform. Because for all of the esports players and enthusiasts, they have a lot of sort of wrist problems because you're constantly sitting and typing on a
Yeah.
keyboard, and especially with your
Hmm.
wrist, you have the RSI, which is repetitive strain injury, or
Yeah.
carpal tunnel syndrome. So these aren't the things that you really want to get by the time you're 22 or 23 or anything like that. So
Hmm.
we recently had a few professional esports players who had to retire from esports because they had hand injuries and they just could not play any longer. So
Wow.
and we hosted a few of tournaments, this is Garvey. He is I believe head of education at Twitch, or head of collegiate esports at Twitch, one of those two, but essentially a really really big personality on Twitch when it comes to university esports. And it was really awesome to host this event for the new. And this is our team at the NSC tournament in 2019 December, I believe. And yeah, I don't think. Oh, here we go. The video is playing. So yeah, just a simple slow motion. But it was really nice to see our players actually go on to a big tournament and
Yeah, that's
play on
so
an actual
cool.
stage. It was a good experience. I don't think the games didn't go as we planned, but
Hmm.
these things happen in esports. But it was a great photo opportunity, and the players really enjoyed going to on a stage and performing
Yeah.
and having a great time essentially. But yeah, these were the photos that I really wanted to share of the space and sort of a few other things that we've been doing um at Roehampton Esports.
That is awesome. Thank you. Okay, we got a few questions through on social media from people. So, first one, do you have female teams?
We're working on it. So we have this August, we introduced the first in Europe Roehampton Women in Esports Scholarship.
Hmm.
So it's a scholarship specifically dedicated to women players on campus. And we are currently working with the two scholars that we have, so Lily and Jade, on building a competitive all-female Valorant team. And we're trying to do a lot more events on campus and online, specifically for all women on campus. We were planning, and we were gonna run weekly events the same way you have women only workouts
Hmm.
at the sports department. We wanted to do the same thing with esports, but unfortunately, with no access to the esports space, it has become a bit trickier. So we're trying to move all of these things online, and we're looking to partner up with a few different organizations like Cat Collective to organize a sort of woman-only Valorant space hub, whichever way you want to call it, for all of the female Valorant players in all of UK universities. So not just focusing on Roehampton University, but
Oh, wow.
spreading it wider and creating a nice and friendly hub for all players to play together. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm assuming that the same as traditional sport, I think females, I'm guessing, can feel quite intimidated by,
Mm.
even if it's not, even if the male players aren't doing anything intentional, they can just feel a little bit intimidated by,
Yeah.
competing with, or, you know, playing in the same room, I suppose, as other people. So
Yeah. So
yeah, that's an amazing kind of initiative.
yeah, that's what we're trying to do. As you mentioned, it is like if you come to an esports arena and you see 12 other people in the esports arena
Yeah.
playing at the same time, and it's
Mhm.
it's all guys, it might be a bit intimidating, as you mentioned. So that's why we wanted to set up these sort of support networks and special events to allow for more opportunities and welcoming space where we can host weekly events.
Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, where is the esports arena?
Right. So the Esports Arena is currently based in Queens Building. It's it's a, it depends on how you look at it. It's either the best place on campus or the worst place on campus. So it's Queens Building at the very top of the building, at the very end, around the corner, and it's the only room that doesn't have any windows. So when you say it like that, it doesn't sound all that spectacular. But on the other end, it's it's tucked away from any place where any random people walk around. So if you are playing, no one will really be disturbing you, so you can actually focus on your gameplay. So what it is in Queen's Building, and as soon as the lockdown is over, we'll continue with our traditional tours. So whenever a new player joins Roehampton Esports Society or wants to find out more about the esports program, especially like during open days, we usually give everyone sort of a 15 to 20 minute tour of, how to use the space, what events we run, what teams they can join, and, talk through absolutely anything and everything they need. So as soon as the lockdown is over, I'll be 100% more than happy to go back to giving tours to people of the space. Yeah.
Awesome. So that's Southlands.
Southlands, yeah, Southlands College, Queen's Building.
Top floor.
Top floor at the very end, yeah.
At the back. Awesome. Okay. Next question. What teams are at Roehampton?
Cool. So we have a variety of teams. Some of our teams are for 6 people, 5 people, 3 people, depends on the game we play. And our approach towards building a team is we will 100% support you in helping you build a team if we have enough players who are interested in joining a team, and if there is a tournament, a student tournament that we can send you to. So if there is a smaller game that we might not have a team at the moment, let's say not a smaller game, but Dota 2 is one of the more popular games in UK university esports scene.
Okay.
But we don't have any teams at the moment. So if there's a person watching this video who wants to start a Dota team, you approach us and we'll try and find the rest of the squad to join you and build a team. But at the moment we have teams. So we have 3 teams for League of Legends. We have a team for Valorant, Overwatch, CSGO, Rainbow Six. We have a FIFA player. We're building an Apex squad. And we do a lot of other online events, not competitive events for teams, but a lot of other things to sort of get a group of people playing together, not necessarily in a tournament, but you're still, playing together. So it's sort of a semi-formal competitive team that you can, play on a regular basis with other people.
Okay. I think that actually leads on to the final question. What's an easy game for beginners?
Ooh, that's a very good question. So it depends on what kind of games you like. I guess the easiest esports title to get into would be sort of the easiest to start and to get the comprehension of would be Rocket League. So that's the sort of football game with radio controlled cars. It looks so much better than the way I describe it, but it's very easy to understand.
So much fun.
It is.
It sounds great.
It's like an amazing party game which has an amazing esports scene as well. It's the premise is very simple. You have 3 players in each team. You control a car, and there's massive goal posts at each end that you have to get the ball in there. So it's very easy to understand. But it's one of those games that and it has the aspect of esports that I absolutely love, which is low skill floor and very high ceiling. So it's very easy to understand the basics and actually start playing and start competing. But to actually get very good at the game, it's incredibly hard because there's so many different things you need to know. And you reach the point of fine controls and getting everything done perfectly is incredibly tricky. So it's one of those where once you start, and if you want to get better at it, you can spend years trying to get better at it and, still not reach the top level, top competitive level. And, there's a lot of other sort of, FPS or first person shooter games that you can get into, but they all range from games like Counter-Strike, which is fairly easy to understand from the beginning because it's not cluttered visually, there's not many abilities or anything like that, to games like I guess probably right now it might not be an esports title at the moment. I'm not sure if it will become, but a good example would be a game called Escape from Tarkov, which is very popular amongst esports players right now. It's once again a shooter game. It's I want to say military simulator, but that's not really a good description. But the game has so many options, and it's so incredibly tricky to play. Like I've been playing games for a very long time, and I tried playing Tarkov a couple of weeks ago. I spent 5 hours, and I realized that that game is just too complicated, too difficult. There's too much information in it. Like the inventory system is amazing, but then you have because it's a shooter game, and you have, let's say, your gun, and the gun has thousands of options how you can customize it and things like that. And if you want to become good at the game, you need to learn all those things. And just
Yeah.
investing and learning into some of those games is a bit of a challenge, but it's a rewarding challenge. And the one thing that I really like about esports titles, so for example, the two main games that I play right now is League of Legends, which is probably the most popular esports title in the world right now,
Yeah.
and Apex Legends. The reason why I like those games is they have a casual player base and casual queue for games, where you queue up and you just play casually for fun. And they have the competitive side of it, and the competitive side has ranking systems. So each season that passes, how good you were because you reached a certain level. So for example, in League of Legends, you have iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, masters, and challenger, all the way to the best players in Europe and in the world. So it's really nice. It's a nice way to track your progression. In sports, let's say if you're just playing Sunday league in football, is you can join better teams and better leagues, but it's really fairly hard to track your progress. Of how there's no there is a way to measure if you're getting better at the game, but it's not as easy to base it off numbers as it is with esports, which is a
Yeah.
great way of keep challenging yourself, especially during these COVID months when there's not much else to do, and you need a challenge in your life, which is something to drive you forward to keep getting better at. And esports offer that in a lot of ways.
Cool. Do you have anything else to add, or?
I guess the only thing I'd like to add is if anyone is watching this and wants to try esports, or just know more information about it, or get into the professional side of it. So as I mentioned, like the business, marketing, live stream side of it, just reach out. I'm more than happy to help out. So as I mentioned, either esports@roehampton.ac.uk, or find us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you want. So if you have any other follow-up questions or anything like that, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but this has been so insightful for me, because someone who's always done, football, gym, whatever. Yeah, it's incredible. It's a whole new world. So yeah, thank you so much. I hope everybody else finds it useful, and I will put all the information people need to contact you or find out more about esports at Roehampton in the comment box.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.